Hi again, everyone. May just the next video, which is for day 3 of the 2014 Cheltenham Festival. Hopefully, we're all in the money by now and can start to lob a few more bigger bets on. Hopefully, you know how these things go. Might not happen, but anyway, we'll see where we go. And the first race of day 3 is the JLT Novices Chase over 2.5 miles. Really good race this, and some top class horses, to be honest with you, are in it this year. It can throw up some decent results, though I think to stick with the class is the way to go here, and for that reason, the first horse I'm going to touch on is Wonderful Charm for Paul Nicholls. A very, very good hurdler, and has been a natural over fences, and most importantly, around Cheltenham as well. So he's proved he handles the trip, he handles the course. He's won over a lot further than 2.5 miles, so he's got staying in his pedigree. The better ground will actually suit him, the softer one he's been running at. And he's had some very, very classy form behind the likes of Oscar Whiskey, who, to be honest with you, it turned into a bit more of a stamina slog with softer ground. But Oscar Whiskey is likely to be going for this, so this is going to be another very, very tight race. But Wonderful Charm, 6-1, has got a great chance, I think. Oscar Whiskey, everyone knows about him, running champion hurdles, multiple entry hurdle winner, world hurdle entrant. He's been good over fences, to be honest with you. His stamina has got him out of trouble. His jumping for me hasn't been brilliant, but he is getting better with every race. And Nicky Henderson would have scored him extensively for this. Has run some brilliant races at the course, but at the same extent has also not run some good races at the course. But I think on the balance of it, he performs well at the course. You don't run as well as you did in over the fences and in a champion hurdle if you don't take to the course. The quicker ground should be okay. As I said, he's won entry hurdles on good ground, should be good, and he's going to be bang there with Wonderful Charm. There's literally less than a length to separate him, so there's no way you could be overly confident on one over the other. Interesting horse here for John Joe O'Neill is Taquin de Seal. Now, he's another one who's finished right behind Oscar Whiskey over course and distance, but he was actually giving him weight. I think he was giving him £7. So on that balance of form, Taquin de Seal off level should be fancied really to take Oscar Whiskey. However, I have got a feeling he needs soft ground. He was brilliant in heavy going at Haydock last time, and the one time he's run on goodish ground was last year in the hurdle race, the novice hurdle race last year, and he was beaten a long way out. And I've looked into the reports there, and someone said, "Oh, the ground was a bit quick for him." I think it's going to be quite similar today, so I think that's the worry with Taquin de Seal. I think he'll run okay, and I think he's a better chaser than he was hurdler, but I still think the ground might come up a bit too soft. Vukova is an interesting one. He's improving all the time, but he needs to, because this is a huge step up in trip. He's been running in class 3 and 4 chases, and suddenly he's up to this level. He's an improver, so he could improve to this level, but I wanted something a bit more, I suppose you'd say a bit more established in order to go well in a race like this. Double Ross has entered in this, though, to be honest with you. He's a multiple course and distance winner. I got a feeling, though, he's more of a handicapper rather than something like the JLT race. So I hope he doesn't run in this. To be honest with you, I hope he runs in, something else like maybe the Burn Group Plate. To be honest with you, I've got a note for him later. But if he does go in this, he could run a good race. But I just don't think he's up to the top level here. And another horse who I do hope goes for this trip is Don Cossack. He's looked better when he was over shorter. When they stepped him up, he didn't seem to stay for me. He might have just had an off day, but he just didn't seem to stay. And therefore, I think 2.5 miles more of a trip for Don Cossack. Well, he's entered another one in multiple races. But if I've got to go for a 1, 2, 3. Ooh, got me thinking. I would have to go with Wonderful Charm. I think he's getting better with every run. He hasn't had much racing even as a hurdler, and I think he is improving. I'd take Wonderful Charm to beat Oscar Whiskey, and I think Vukova could end up improving to get right up there with him as well. So that would be my 1, 2, 3 with the ground as it is. The next race is a lottery, which is the Per Thames final. Look at the price of some of these winners over the years. It's staggering, really. And once again, you've got horses who are multiple entrants. But believe it or not, I've got one horse here who I quite fancy if he runs, and that is again for Paul Nicholls, and the horse is called Southfield Theatre. He's got excellent course form, including over the distance against Return Spring, on ground that was softer than ideal, and Return Spring's loved it. Return Spring has won a couple of times and been placed around Cheltenham this year. He's a real real course specialist, I suppose you'd call him, in to a degree, return spring. To what level, we don't really know. But Southfield Theatre, he's got an excellent run. I said record at the course as well. The ground is okay. He clearly stays, and I think they've been protecting his mark quite a bit here because he's had quite a quiet time after the start of the season. He's 20-1. I'm going to be doing him each way if he runs in this. Whether I do something else with it or not, I don't know yet, but I'm definitely having a nibble on him at 20-1. Another one at a big price is Seafood, coming over from Ireland. He's on a good mark back over hurdle, and he's been over fences. He's actually got form behind the likes of Glenn's Melody, Foiled Up, and Courage in his last 3 runs, and a lot of them are entered in good races at the festival. So I think that line of form is pretty good. The ground's a bit of a question mark. A lot of these horses have been run on heavy ground, but if he takes to it, he's another one at 20-1, and I wouldn't tell you not to do it in this race. Who could run well. Going to the head of the market, Philip Hobbs has got a real monopoly on the head of the market, really. Fingal Bay was a top-class hurdler, also should have been a top-class chaser, which never really worked out. He got injured. He's a class horse of the race. It was a great comeback. He won on his comeback after a long time out, which was fantastic. He's on a decent mark for hurdling, and provided he can keep him sound, he could run a cracking race at 10-1. That could prove, even in a competitive race like that could be a big price, believe it or not. But Champagne West is another one interesting for Philip Hobbs. He's been getting better after every single run. He's just improving all the time. He's been going right-handed, winning well, but jumping left-handed, which suggests the switch to a left-handed course could be a lot better for him, really. The ground is a bit of an unknown because it's always been in soft and heavy, but looking at his breeding, I think he should be okay. 14-1, that's got a great chance. So once again, if I had to pick my 3, I'd go with Southfield Theatre to beat Fingal Bay, and actually to beat Champagne West and Fingal Bay. I'll switch that. I think Champagne West is a bit more value at 14-1 there. One of the big 2 races on day 3 is the Ryanair Chase. For me, it's mostly all about the top of the market here. Obviously the race has lost a bit of gloss because Q Card's out, but there's 4 horses within of half a point of each other, really, and that is Dynast, Beneficent, First Lieutenant, and Alpha Off. Now, starting with Beneficent, he won last year the novice equivalent of JLT last year, I think it was, over this trip and did it well. But like the comment I said yesterday around the 2-mile trip, I just think, he did a good run last time, but he just hasn't been in the form of late. Saying that, a lot of his rivals haven't been in form, so Beneficent could run a big race here. I hope he goes for this over the Queen Mother. Dynast has inevitably bombed a couple of times, and that's a nice word for it, in the last couple of years. Last year, though, he actually ran a decent race, and then I got told he wasn't right. Everything went wrong for him. So if he turns up in half the form that he is, that he should run a great race. He run a very good first time out, and then everything. But once again, I think it was in the King George or another race. Forgive me, I haven't got that one with me. There was another excuse for it. There does seem to be a lot of excuses racking up for Dynast now. This is last chance saloon to be considered that real top-class horse. Will he bring it on the day? I'm going to avoid him because I don't know if he is going to bring it on the day. If he does, he'd probably have a good a chance as any, but it's that risk. Alpha Off has been plagued with injury problems over the years, but he's very, very classy. He's won the Supreme Novice. He's been a very, very good chaser. He clearly in the King George didn't stay 3 mile. That was the ultimate thing about it. But for me, 3 mile flat track King George, 2 mile 5 give or take, up the hill at Cheltenham. There's not a lot in it, and I think he could get caught tap for toe at the end. Very interesting horse is First Lieutenant if he goes for this over from Ireland. Has run well at the festival before, and once again, I think I've used on many of these, he's a spring horse. Last year at Aintree, he was breathtaking. I was there, I backed him, and he gets better. He jumps better out of better ground. The one worry I've had with him is he's folded quite quickly on a couple of occasions this year, but I'm not going to let that overly bother me because this is a very good horse. He likes the course and he jumps well, and I think Brian Cooper, who's a fantastic jockey, is going to take this horse. I think he might end up just hunting around in 2nd or 3rd place, and we should get a good pace to aim at with the likes of Beneficent in this, so that could be an interesting one. Menora's in at 14-1, who's a good horse on his day. Last year, his jumping went to pieces. He was held up too far out the back, and he inevitably does that at Cheltenham. His record around Cheltenham, even though he won the Supreme Novice Hurdle, or came 2nd of what it was. I remember the year was with Strawberry, I think it was actually. He's a good horse, to be fair. He's a good horse, but he just, once again, doesn't always bring his A game. And I think the drying ground is actually bringing Hidden Cyclone into it. Run really well, won in Ireland last time. He was ill all last year, his trainers has come out and said. The ground's coming good for him. He stays 3 miles, but travels well over 2.5. And travelling well is going to be a big part of the game here. So 16 to 1. If you're looking for a bigger price, that's the way to go. But I'm going to go with a 1-2-3 here, and that's why I'm happy to go with First Lieutenant from Beneficent and Hidden Cyclone. Next up is the big race of the day, the World Hurdle, and this was, for many years, this was all about Big Bucks. Sadly, Big Bucks missed the whole of last season with a tendon injury, which ruled him out of a chance to go for, well, an unbelievable statistic in the World Hurdle, wasn't it? Let's face facts. He didn't run. Solwit went and won it, and now Solwit's injured. That's the nature of racing, I suppose. But he's, for the first time in living memory at Cheltenham, really, he's not favourite for this race, and the favouritism is being held currently 15 to 8 as I'd make this with Annie Power for Willie Mullins. This is going to be one of those Oscar Whiskey scenarios for me here of this, will she stay, will she not stay, that we had with, as I said, Oscar Whiskey the other year. She's been brilliant. She beat Zarkandra at Ascot. She then won at Doncaster. She travels well. She's got a devastating turn of foot. Everything points that she'd stay, and the problem that we don't know is here. Willie Mullins has almost got a too many options. He's got the Fly, obviously he's got Hurricane Fly in the Champion Hurdle. He's got the Supermare Quevega in the Mers Hurdle over the 2 and 2.5 mile, and Annie Power could have qualified for both. So, could he have gone for that, or is he keeping his options open and thinking, okay, we'll go for the 3 mile World Hurdle? I think if Quevega wasn't going for this record that we discussed on day one, it wouldn't surprise me to say she got beat last year if Quevega was in the World Hurdle and Annie Power wasn't. Will she stay? I think she will. I think she'll stay. But the key word is think. So the next horse we move on to is a horse who we know stays, and that's Big Bucks. He lost that massive unbeaten 16-18 race, whatever it was, unbeaten record last time out at Cheltenham, but he went down by absolutely no margin at all on ground which he will hate. They've said time and time again he does not like soft ground, he likes better ground, and to be honest with you, he looked like the possible winner. He was just run down late by at Fisher's Cross, who, to be fair, loved the ground, and Nakara Bow. It was his first run for Christ knows how long it was, and it was a really, really good effort. They got the tactics wrong, I think. He went too early on Big Bucks and he didn't have enough left at the end. But the reason he went early is because he has the stamina. Will he come on for the run? Yes, he will. Will he appreciate the better ground? Yes, he will. This is going to be one of the races of the festival, I think, because I think this could be one of those where the other year where they thought it was going to be Grand Cru and Big Bucks coming together at the last. I think we're going to have a similar one with Annie Power and Big Bucks here. And Big Bucks might end up doing an English Dreamer here and coming back from injury and winning it all. I've got a feeling. At Fisher's Cross, much better effort last time when everything felt right. He came second. The ground drying outs won't really affect him because he's won on good ground before. One thing McCoy did say was it was like his first run of the season last time because of all the problems he's had. The problem is I don't like horses who've had problems all season who suddenly get better and then try it again there. I think he'll run a decent race, but I'm happy to take him on. Rule the World's interesting. It came second to the new one last year, and look, when really fancied, didn't really take to the course for me. I've watched the race again today. His jumping was a bit erratic, and that's always a bit of a worry. And since then, his form has been well below that level. He's a classy horse, but I'm happy to leave Rule the World out of it this year. More of that's an interesting one. Clearly stays, been improving. Very, very good at Doncaster and Haydock, I think it was, with that turn of foot was lightning towards the end. So if they go a good clip, yeah, more of that could become part of this. But it's interesting that the champ has left him to go for at Fisher's Cross, and I think that speaks volumes. But I've got a feeling he could go quite close here. If you're looking for a big price horse, and it's a Paul Nicholls horse, he's done it before. He did it last year with Celestial Halo. He's got in it at this stage Salubrious. He's got good course form. He won last year, obviously. Everyone knows about that one. The ground drying out is great. And if you actually look at it earlier this season, he was only a little bit behind More of That and was staying on. When More of That hit the front, Salubrious went later. I don't want to sound like I'm picking on the jockey again with the Nicholls yard, but the jockey went too late, and he wasn't that far behind More of That. The interesting one, More of That's 8 to 1, while Salubrious is 20 to 1. there could be worse bets if you're looking for an each-way one than Salubrious here. I think he could surprise a few. You've got to mention old Rev de Sivler. Hasn't been the force he was this year. Needs bottomless ground. I don't think we're going to get it, and I think that'll see pay to his chance. However, he could end up forcing the pace possibly here. And Celestial Halo was awful, to be fair, at Haydock. I was actually there about a month ago, and okay, you'll come on for it. And, he said anything he does, he'll come on for. He'll have to come on about 5 stone in reason for that, and will he do it? I really don't know, to be honest with you. So, we're going to go for the 1, 2, 3 in the World Hurdle, and I'm going to go for Big Bucks. And I know it could be sentiment, but I think he's got less to prove than a lot of the others at this moment. Big Bucks to beat Annie Power, who I think will stay. I think the turn of foot will be there, but I think she'll stay, but just be outstayed by a legendary horse. That's what I think possibly could happen here. And do you know what? I'm actually going to throw in Salubrious at 20-1, fast finishing Salubrious. I think he could run a really big race. Burn Group Plate has been a race for upsets. And look at some of the prices of these, even the likes, I think it was like the old Mr. McGoldrick's won it over the years and stuff like that. But one thing I would say, as I was going through the form, this seems a lot classier race this year than other years, and I'm happy to look at the ones towards the head of the market. Now, Double Ross is in this race. I hope he runs in this, because as I said all along, I think he's a handicapper. I don't think he should be going for the better races, even though this is a very good race. He's entered in other ones. This is what he does well. This is what he's won and been placed on all winter, basically, and he loves the course. He'll run well. The better ground I'm not 100% sure about for him, but the one thing about Double Ross is the way he jumps. He jumps like a stag, usually, touch wood, from fence to fence. So if he goes for the Burn Group, I know he'll have quite a bit of weight. That'll be a pretty good horse. Colour Squadron as well. He always runs well at the course. He was running well. I think it was in the Paddy Power Gold Cup when he got brought down or hampered at the last and then run on. And he keeps running on well at the end. He needs a lot to fall for him because he has to come through the pack. I was reading the thing McCoy said about him back in October, November, saying you've got to keep him covered up. They've even tried holding him up but giving him a bit of daylight, and he's just too free. So you're asking for luck. But I tell you what, if it all goes well, Colour Squadron is a banker place if everything drops in there. But when does it ever? Very paraded, interesting one. He run a cracker in, I think it was, the Racing Plus Chase the other day. So that proves that he clearly stays, and he travels well in his race, which will be important in something like the Burn Group. He's a quirky horse, so he didn't want to go through with his effort last time. So, yeah, you're relying on the jockey to go and deliver something on him here, and in a competitive race. You'll run well, but I don't think so. I just don't think this will be his day. Tap Night is interesting for Lucinda Russell. He clearly stays. The ground has come right for him. The one thing about this horse, he always seems to make a mistake at the wrong time. Back to when I was at Aintree last year, when I backed Captain Conan, so I was quite glad he made the mistake. Captain Conan was in the lead. He was jumping well. Tap Night was going equally as well in behind. He made a mistake at the cross fence. He then made another mistake 2 out, and that cost him everything. But then he stayed on well to the line. If he cuts out these mistakes, Tap Night could go very, very close. John's Spirit is very interesting as well. He's obviously got course and distance form. The ground's okay, and he's been put out for this. He jumps well. He travels just in off the pace as well, so you should get that good pace. I think John's Spirit is another one. If everything pans out, this is a horse that you want to be getting on the each way for. It's a difficult race, this, because everyone is entered multiple times. But if I'm going for a 1, 2, 3, I think I'm going to go for Tap Night, actually, if he runs in this. Tap Night from Colour Squadron to give Manus a 1, 2. So try a forecast on that, maybe. And John's Spirits. That's my idea of a 1, 2, 3, with an honourable mention for Double Ross if he goes. But I just think, like with Hunt Ball the other year, when the weight just caught up with him, I think the same thing could happen with Double Ross. And only 6 races on the Thursday. We get spoilt with these 7 race cards nowadays, but the Kim Muir is the last one, which is the stayers race for amateur riders. And the head of the market, rightfully so, is Indian Castle, who's got brilliant form. Won last time out, stays very well. The McCain Yard all love this race. They had Super Duty last year. They put others towards this that have run well in the past. This is a horse that has been targeted for this after he won last time. And I've got the quote here from the McCain Yard. He's being put away for the Kim Muir. He'll be freshened up, and we're looking forward to it. His actual quote that I've got here. McCain's love a plot, and when they go and get the plot right, more often than not, it'll run a good race, like with Super Duty last year. 7-1 for a competitive race, yeah. But you know what? That could be a good price. I think it could even be as short as 4-1 coming off on the third day, but we'll wait and see. If we're looking for others in the race, so Midnight Prayer for Alan King is very interesting. He stays very, very well. That's always been his thing. Even if he's been beaten, he's been outpaced and stayed on again. He travels superbly. If you go and type it into, if you go on Sporting Life website's interesting, you've got an account signed up there, you can type in the name of the horses and look at the last few runs. Watch the way Midnight Prayer jumped and travelled, and it was only a 4-horse race last time. He came second the time before. He travelled perfect. Everything about it was good, and he's improving all the time. The worry, I suppose, you get this is where does the improvement stop? And you've got the amateur jockey quandary that goes in with it, really. But 14 to 1, once again, could be a decent price. That Wickhill's interesting. His jumping finally came together last time, and he did what he's been promising to do for the last few years. The problem is he's put it together once. Is he going to do it again? He's improved for David Bridgewater, to be fair, but once again, you're taking the chance. He's put it together once, and now will an amateur be able to get it all together again? You can't be safe. Same Difference won this last year, got up in the dying strides, so you've got to mention him because he's entered back in here for the Twiston Davis yard. The problem is since that win, he's been awful since, and I mean diabolical in some situations, virtually not even finishing. So I'm happy to rule him out this year. Very interesting horse at 20 to 1, still in there at this stage, is Time for Rupert. Now this is a horse that 2 years ago finished 5th in the Gold Cup and was like in the leading line jump in the last. The Kim Muir's nothing like the Gold Cup, and this horse is the class horse of the race without question. Do you know what? He was much improved on his last run. He came second, I think it was, last time, and he's got great course form over both hurdles and fences. He's the class act here, and I don't understand why he's 20 to 1. If anyone has any ideas on that one, I'd love to know, because I don't get why Time for Rupert is 20 to 1. The interesting thing worth mentioning in this race as well is that the Irish haven't won this race for 19 years. If you want to comment on that, I'd love to know what the theory is behind why not. My personal thing is it's just bad luck, maybe, or maybe if they're sending a horse over to Cheltenham, then they were going to go for a more high-profile race. I really don't know why, but I'm just interested to know. But anyway, I'm going to go from a 1, 2, 3 here, and I still think Indian Castle, even though he's 7 to 1, he's going to take some beating, I think, next Thursday. So we're going to go for Indian Castle to beat Midnight Prayer, and I'm going to mention Time for Rupert because I really hope he runs, because I'll be having a few pound each way on that just to. Because one of those, I'll be kicking myself if he doesn't win. Okay, I hope this has been useful. Once again, what you're backing in the race yourself, etc. I'd love to see what you guys are doing. So yeah, post that in the comments, and I'll be back tomorrow with the 4th and final day, including the Gold Cup. Thanks a lot. See you soon.